Hey there, toy collector friends and Star Wars fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time traveling toy collector, and today we are looking at a recent acquisition that I've picked up. It's Star Wars, it's Zutton, or Zutton, or as I've always known him, Snaggletooth, from Star Wars As I Always Knew It, which then became Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Now this particular figure is it's dressed up to look like an original. It of course isn't. It is a Hasbro vintage collection figure, and if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that Star Wars was one of my, if not the first mainline collection of toys that I ever got, and as such, it has a very, very special place in my heart. And the original Snaggletooth figure was also one of the ones that I got quite early on in my collection, which is now lost to time and car boot sales and all sorts of hideous things that we won't go into here because it's all just too sad and depressing. And I'm very aware that Star Wars has had such, well, I wouldn't even call it a resurgence. It's had wave after wave after wave of sort of regenerations, if you will, of different versions of what's gone before. And latterly, when Hasbro started to bring out the retro collection, which admittedly I stayed away from until they started bringing out the box sets, and then that sort of hooked me in because I thought it's quite a nice sort of collector's box set. I appreciate all the reasons why some people wouldn't want them. And some of the complexities about what you might have to buy in order to get one figure. So I understand all of the issues associated with that. But as someone who didn't have any of the figures, it presented as a more cost-effective way for me to kickstart my retro collection across all of the Star Wars lines, the Star Wars media, films, etc., etc. So I haven't really collected any of their vintage collection. I've picked up a couple of Black Series figures and possibly one or two vintage collection things that have been of particular interest to me. And then, and this is why I'm now a proud owner of this particular figure, I'll admit it, I ordered I succumbed and picked up the Haslab Star Wars Mos Eisley Cantina. So yeah, I backed it, and it has been backed, as you'll be aware, and it's expected to arrive somewhere around October 2025, and we're currently at the back end of March 2025. And I've thought to myself, well, it does come with a few figures, which is terrific, but if I am going to put one on display, yes, I said one, if I'm going to put one on display, then I need a few more. Figures in my cantina, and so I've started looking now, because obviously I appreciate that the scale-wise, there's a lot of similarity between the vintage collection and the retro collection. However, in terms of the quality of the figures, and I'll tread carefully how I phrase this, the retro collection is designed by default to be reminiscent of the aesthetic of the 1970s and 80s toys, by which I mean limited articulation, slightly limited costume, dark clothing and accessories, very limited articulation, and very limited detail. You know, the Star Wars figures of the 70s and the 80s were not the most detailed and accurate of figures. It's just how it is. That said, the vintage collection is a bit more articulated, it's a bit more detailed, and it's going to key in to the figures that are coming with the Cantina from the Haslab. So I thought I'm going to have to start acquiring some Star Wars figures that will be appropriate for the Cantina. So I'm not doing an unboxing here. I'm really just saying I've picked this guy up. There's a couple now, and originally I thought, and when I get this, am I going to be like, oh my goodness me, this is lovely. I cannot possibly take it off the card and then do what I want to do and pose it and blah blah blah. Since getting it, and I actually literally got it today, on the same day I'm filming this, because I had a slot where I could film. And I'm not going to regret it, actually, because the card is quite flimsy. And it almost feels reproduced, if I'm honest. It doesn't feel almost legitimate. It almost feels like a knockoff. It's not. It is everything it needs to be. Let me just give you the other side of it. They're the other figures that were released around in the same wave as this one, the Vintage Collection. There's all the other blurb if you want to read that. But yeah, this is a more accurate version of Snaggletooth, or Zutton. And I'm really looking forward to getting them out. But what I'm going to do, what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to collect. And it's quite nice to have a target if you're a collector. If you're me and you're a collector, it's quite nice to have a target where you kind of think, I know what I'm going to go after. Well, what I'm going to go after are Vintage Collection figures that I can use to populate the cantina. Now, this is going to be a bit of an eBay trawl. It's going to be a bit of a trawl of some online stores that I'm familiar with in the UK that have done me well in the past. But I'm also, it's kind of a call to arms, really. If any of you are aware of cantina patrons that are available in the Vintage Collection line, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'm going to try and get as many of them as I can. And then when the Haslab actually arrives, my plan is to almost do sort of a mega unboxing, where I'll also be taking the figures out, setting up the cantina, and doing whatever I can with it in the first instance. I'm very excited because actually the Star Wars Cantina Haslab hasn't generated an awful lot of online updates or YouTube updates or any kind of update at all that I've seen from Hasbro. I mean, for Transformers Haslabs and G.I. Joe Haslabs and things like that, you kind of, and Ghostbusters Haslabs, you kind of get some updates every so often. But from the point at which it backed and they took the money, I haven't seen anything. I mean, if you've got the Haslab, if you've successfully acquired one of the Haslabs, whether it's the deluxe model or the base offer, have you heard or seen anything mentioned about it being in production, or anything, any tweaks they've made to it, etc., other than what came out at the time? If you have, and you know a link, please drop it in the comments. Or if you've heard anything, let me know in the comments below again, because that's another thing that's sort of sticking in my head. It's gone a bit quiet, but yeah, I believe it's supposed to be sort of September, October time, 2025. So, you know, that gives me some time to collect some of these figures. So I'm on the lookout now. I am officially on the lookout for Star Wars Vintage Collection figures that would be particularly appropriate to populate my Haslab Cantina when it comes. And I just think this is a gorgeous figure. I think they do wonderful stuff with the Vintage Collection, with what I've seen of it so far. It's really been great. And again, the Black Series is great too, but you're paying for some more premium kind of figures there. But for the scale that we grew up with, those of us who grew up with this scale, this is what we're accustomed to, this is what we're used to. But to see this scale augmented with this level of detail and articulation, etc., it is a real joy. It really helps our imagination of the day slam back into focus. Because I remember my Snaggletooth was, I remember it vividly. It was the red one, not the blue one, but it was the limited articulation, and of course the comedy factor of never being able to get them to hold their guns properly and or stand up, and certainly not both at once. But that was part of it. That was part of the fun and the joy of having these figures. So I'm not going to sort of ramble endlessly. Too late, I hear you cry, as one, about this single figure, especially as I'm not taking him out of the box yet. But I just wanted to sort of say, this is going to become not an obsession, because I'm not that kind of guy. I am that kind of guy, but I'm going to try and not make it an obsession. but I am going to be actively seeking Vintage Collection patrons for my cantina, Mos Eisley Cantina. So any suggestions you can make, then by all means let me know down below. There are obviously a few that I know I'm going after, which sort of goes without saying, but if there's any more that you're aware of that you think I should be going after that isn't, for example, Walrus Man or Hammerhead or anything like that, then please let me know in the comments down below. It's much appreciated. And then hopefully somewhere along the line you can join me for an unboxing of the Mos Eisley Cantina and an unboxing of the figures I've managed to collect, to then populate them within that epic, what I hope will be an epic playset slash diorama slash photo heaven for figures. Thank you so much for sticking with me for the last 10 or so minutes. You've been a fantastic audience. I've been the Triple TC, that's the time traveling toy collector. If you've liked what you've seen and you're interested for more, please do hit that like button. And also, it would be amazing if you could drop a subscription to the channel. It's completely free. There's no obligation to watch all the content. Just the things that appeal to you would be fantastic. And of course, do have a look around the channel. There may be some other things that will jump out at you as you have a wander. But if you can't subscribe or don't wish to at this time, that's absolutely fine. I'm just glad you were here for the video. And maybe I'll see you in a future or indeed a past video. This has been Star Wars Zutton or Zutton, or Snaggletooth, because let's not pretend that isn't who he really is, from Hasbro, pretending to be Kenner. And I very much look forward to seeing you, as I said, in a future video. And it just remains for me to say that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Take care and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.